in terms of what this session is about, as you guys know, and you will know because you're work in WP and you work at institutions at higher education level, WP and digital outreach is a key national priority, particularly considering the current situation. And we need to make sure that our digital resources are inclusive, that they kind of allow for different learners from diverse backgrounds to access these types of resources. And it's important for us to kind of get together and think about ways that we can promote that access. So what are digital resources for? What is the common achievement that we want to get out of them? What is the outcome? Are the resources an end in and of itself, or are they here to kind of promote something else and to achieve a certain outcome? And those are the kinds of questions that we should be asking ourselves. Do we need another resource about, you know, writing a personal statement? Does that already exist? So how can we come together to kind of ensure that we're creating these inclusive resources, and that we're here to support each other and share what we know? And I think this kind of session will allow us to start a lot of those conversations between different organizations. And please do share your contact details when you're in the breakout session, and then in the chat as well, if you want to share those with others, please do feel free. Particularly now with the new access and participation plans, we know that we're going to have to find evidence for the activities that we do, and the impact has to be evidenced as well. So it's important that we find ways to address these learning differences and attainment gaps, and we use the digital space to kind of support that, to deliver those more personalized student experiences and things like that. So with that, I will now talk to you a little bit about the agenda that we have in store. So first of all, we've got Matt from Brightside, who will be discussing how we use and engage our volunteer network to create that digital resource content. Then we've got Helen from Causeway Education, and she'll be talking to us about her experience at Causeway, you know, moving to things online during this crisis, and what kind of resources they have available. Then we'll have Finn from UCAS, and then we will go into our breakout sessions where we'll be able to kind of discuss your approaches within your institutions, and you'll be able to kind of share your experiences, share your ideas, and we'll give you a bit of a prompt for what the type of things that you can discuss are. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you have any questions, please do use the chat box, and we will field through those, and there will be time after the presentations to kind of ask a few questions. So if you could put that in the chat box, then I'll be able to facilitate those. Great, now on to Matt.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I was really glad that Milena approached me to share some of the stuff that we've been up to at Brightside in regards to generating the digital resources for young people. It's something that that we've been working on quite a lot over the last 6 months or so, and as we've seen some change at the organisation, have been doing quite a bit of innovation, I guess, on our approach to digital resources for young people. To give you a quick introduction as to who I am, I'm Matt, so I'm Brightside's volunteering manager, and what that means in practice is that I lead the overall volunteer offer that Brightside gives to our volunteers. So on a basic level, it's my responsibility that we have enough volunteers at Brightside to deliver our programs. So a lot of you will be familiar with the online mentoring programs we run, and for a lot of those programs where Brightside provides volunteers, it's my responsibility to make sure we have enough online mentors to have a really successful program. And also I have overall responsibility of our volunteer journey. So that's making sure that our volunteers have a really valuable experience with us. They feel like they've achieved something, they want to continue volunteering with us, and that's basically because we're very aware that volunteers who have a good experience and are happy with the volunteering that they've done are more likely to give more to an organisation and will be better quality for it as well. So to give you kind of some insight into Brightside's volunteer network, so we have spent the last few years building our network of volunteers who are based all around the country. And we have, as of today, about 4,500 people that represent a whole number of careers and courses. So we have both young people who are at university volunteering for us in our network, but also career professionals from just about every career path that you can think of, really. And I guess that's sort of where I see the real value in the volunteers that we have at Brightside. It lies. It's that real life lived experience that we can pull on to support the young people that we work with. So, and the way I kind of explain that, I guess, is that there's a lot of information that's out there. There's tons of IAG on the internet, and it's something that's very much a theme of this session. But the unique and lots of that stuff can be Googled. So, you know, if you want to know what the entry requirements for a specific university are, for example, of course it's important that that young people have support in finding that information. But ultimately, you can just Google what the entry requirements to a university are. However, what our volunteers bring is that real life experience. So they can share with young people what stuff feels like. What does it feel like to go to university for the, you know, on that first day? What does it feel like to enter a room of people where no one else looks like you or sounds like you? What's it like to try and break into a certain career path? What were the challenges they faced? And that, to me, is the real unique value of the volunteers that lie in our network, and the support that they give to young people. So that leads me on nicely to our volunteer-led content, which you can see on the screen some of the examples of stuff we've been getting onto. So the background to Brightside starting to think about volunteer-led content was primarily around offering some variety to our volunteering offer. So we were very, very aware that our volunteering offer was quite one-dimensional, in that we allowed adults to come and volunteer with us to be online mentors and support the young people we work with in that way. But I was really aware that we had loads of people in our network, and lots of potential people who could join our network, who might be willing to give their time in slightly different ways. You know, being a mentor is not right for everyone. Yet that doesn't mean that those people who don't want to be a mentor don't have something to share with young people. So what we really wanted to do, I guess, was offer some exciting opportunities for volunteers, but also those opportunities needed to be impactful for the young people that we work with. We weren't in the game of just creating random things that volunteers could do. We wanted to still enable them to have an impact on young people. So what we thought about was, how can we at Brightside capture that unique selling point, which is the real lived experience of career journeys, of education journeys. How can we capture that in another way that's not online mentoring? And so what we came up with was that there's a number of ways that we could create resources that would share that real experience, so that young people could access it. And so what we did is we launched a number of new volunteer roles to supplement the online mentor role, which still remains our core volunteer role at Brightside. So the three roles that we launched can be seen on the screen here. So primarily, the first one is the content creator role. So you can see in the bottom right of the screen a clip from one of the articles that our volunteers written for us. And so what we've done is we invited volunteers to write articles that go on our Bright Knowledge site. A lot of you might be familiar with Bright Knowledge. It's Brightside's own online resource bank. And we invited volunteers to come forward to us with proposals of articles they could write that reflect on their own experience, that we can then share with young people. We were very clear in this ask that that we were looking for that sharing of experience in the articles, and when we chat to volunteers that come forward, we put that at the front and center of what we're looking for. So that particular article that's on the screen was written by a volunteer who's a current student at university down in Portsmouth, and she wanted to share her experience of moving from college to university. And again, it's really focused on how it felt for her and what the challenges were for her, and the coping mechanisms that she came up with to support her through that. And that's a real theme that goes throughout our articles. We've got a really good example of another one is where we have a young person with autism who wanted to write about their experience of being a young person with autism at university. And so they wrote, again, an article from their experience of what it was like. And the important thing that we did with all of the volunteer-led content we have is we make sure to link out to external expertise. So we know that the likes of UCAS will have lots of amazing content out there. The likes of OFS and Student Loans Company will have lots of great stuff, and they'll be the authorities on their various areas. So what we do is we link the articles which are sharing experience from our volunteers. We make sure we link out to the relevant resources too, to give that overall that kind of holistic information sharing to the young people. The other way that we've got volunteers involved is through Ask the Expert, which I often list as kind of mentoring light, and that's where we create bios for some of our volunteers and open them up to questions for young people, and young people all over our platform can submit any questions they might have to that particular individual. You can see an example of one of the bios in the top right, and once we've had all of those questions come in from young people, we then collate the questions and send those over to the volunteer to come up with some written answers for us. Those written answers are then published for everybody on our platform to see, so that experience of that individual volunteer can be shared with a broad range of young people, which is really exciting in comparison to, say, our mentoring, where the online mentor and the young person share a really important relationship, but it's a one-on-one thing. With Ask the Expert, we're able to open up that experience to a really large number of young people on our platform. And then finally, in terms of the content Brightside's been putting together is Brightside Talks. So Brightside Talks are a series of online videos which are broadcast out live for young people to dial into, and they're sharing the real life experience of our volunteers with young people. So for example, next Thursday we have a talk from a student who's a final year student at university up in Sheffield, and she is going to be talking through her experience of managing finances at university, and again sharing what she was able to come up with, and sort of the support that she received, to again help open the eyes of the viewers to the different options that are out there, and hopefully that one will break down some of those perceptions about the affordability of university. All of those Brightside talks are then put on our YouTube channel and then shared with all of our young people. So again, it's about building a big database of resources that share that real life experience that we have within our volunteer network. So that in brief is kind of the work that Brightside's been doing so far on our volunteer-led content and creating what I think are some quite unique resources for young people. I believe I am now passing over to Helen, who's the next up on speaking.
Hello, hi everybody. Yeah, my name is Helen, and I work for Causeway Education. We're a small education charity, and we focus specifically on the application process. So obviously you'll all be working across this sector, and our role is to support students and teachers and you in making sure that students get the best application advice. If you move on a little bit, Milena, go on. Well, that's us, but go on again, because you can read that afterwards. That's not the important stuff. So today what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of a sort of practical look at how we went from running a normal set of programs as you all were doing, to moving everything online. And so, yeah, just kind of go through step by step how we sort of planned that, what new activity we've decided to do, or you could decide to do, and then just some examples of what we've been doing. So the first thing that I think is really important when you're sort of moving towards online, or just really throughout this whole phase, like moving your the work that you're doing, is just to stop. I think you need to replan and then reprioritize. And I kind of came up with these questions. We were first thinking about this about 4 weeks ago when the world just changed very suddenly. Like, what is it that we want to achieve by the end of this period? What do you want to achieve by the end of this sort of period of time, wherever that may be? In my head, I'm kind of saying September, but I mean, who knows? What do you want your teachers and students and people you work with to say about the provision that you provided over this time? What are the things that you can focus on doing really, really well? And then what are the things that you might sort of put to one side and re-pick up when this is all over? And then really trying to gauge kind of what the need is out there. And that's a really interesting one, because things have changed, and what schools and what teachers want, I think, has changed quite significantly. And so I think communicating with them and finding out where they might be struggling. Thanks, Milena. Something else that I just thought was interesting, and I don't know obviously all of your roles, but if you're leading your team, thinking about what staffing considerations throughout this time might be like. So obviously you're looking to make big changes, but at a time when all your staff are suddenly working from home. So I think thinking about staff well-being, about the juggling of priorities that people are doing whilst they're at home, with sort of childcare, and setting realistic expectations around kind of what working hours might look like, for example, which will be very different. I think, yeah, also whenever you're planning, thinking about, sadly, somebody may get ill, so planning for that sort of staff absence, not siloing projects to one person if it's current delivery. And I've put here, depending on your setup. Actually, clear leadership is needed, whatever, but I think during this time it is really important to have a vision about what it is that you are trying to achieve and moving your team towards that. I put depending on your setup because I was thinking about the sort of UniConnect partnership setup, which is different, I think is more complex. You know, you're trying to move partners who you may have no kind of line management sort of responsibility for in a certain direction. So trying to motivate them and making sure that people aren't going off and doing their own thing, but you can sort of realign everybody. And then really who's going to do what. So yeah, actually, what skills are you going to need to be able to successfully move your work online? You know, face-to-face workshops might be delivered by one person who might not have the skills yet to do that on a webinar, for example. And I just put a note there really about good virtual sort of team working. So, you know, making sure that you're checking in and yeah, having daily updates and having meetings like you normally would. So rather than sending me an email what you're doing, actually still talking to me, still trying to call me. There was the practical things about kind of, yeah, where you might be at right now. Thanks, Milena. Yeah, and actually yesterday I spoke about something completely different with Aspire to HE, which is the UniConnect from the University of Wolverhampton. And they kind of echoed everything I've just said. And they, for this time, have set 3 objectives. And the first one was staff wellbeing. The second one was only focusing on what you can deliver well. I don't think we have to move everything that you're doing now needs to go online. And also this can be a really good time to push on with long-term projects that you've been planning, particularly if you're thinking about yeah, resources or new website, those sorts of things. This could be a really good time for that. Thanks, Elena. Okay, so the first thing that we did, and I say this is about 4 weeks ago, and this is a real, like a sort of snippet from a document. So me and the head of programs at Causeway, we sat down and looked at everything that we provide. And probably like you, it's a number of different programs with teachers, with students, with ambassadors, and worked out which ones, you know, can we park? So for example, the first one on that is Access Champions Teacher Training Day. So Access Champions is like a 2-year teacher development program where we try and improve HE progression from schools, so getting schools much better at supporting their young people and the disadvantaged young people in particular. So that's something we've decided to postpone. We don't want to just run that online. Actually, we want to be able to talk about sorry, I get distracted by the little chat thing at the bottom. We want to, we don't want to do that in this current circle. We want to wait until everything is over and come back and resume that. But in the meantime, we need to keep those teachers kind of engaged and warm. So we want to make sure that they know what we're doing and that we're going to wait and park it, but that we can keep sending resources that might be useful throughout this time, because obviously it's not a normal application year. The second sort of programme I've included is Pathways to Law. So we deliver just the applications part of Pathways to Law, which is a Sutton Trust programme that runs in universities across the country. And we deliver, how do you apply your actual application to law? And for that one, we planned, okay, fine, we could just do that but online, and we'll keep the same dates. We need to communicate that, but also what else can we do? So what else are students going to miss out on who are on that programme? So they probably won't be getting any of the summer school, they won't get work experience. So can we, for example, think about getting some of our law mentors on those webinars to talk to those young people? Although now, after what Matt's just said, I might just send them to Brightside and they can have some real life experience there instead. And then the resources that we'll need. So really planning, okay, we'd normally give out paper resources in a workshop. We need to make sure that there's a shared drive. They can access those online. They need to be able to edit them. A PDF is no good. Students might not have printers. So really thinking about the kind of the like nitty gritty of what needs to happen for each of the current programs that you're delivering, and then working out how you're going to move them online. So that was kind of the process that we went through there, which I thought might be useful. Right, if you go on, Milena. Thank you. So so then what are we doing with our new activity? And I've got there's 3 things really that we've are focusing on with our approach to sort of thinking about online and support for young people. One, and Matt's already said it, everyone is saying it, but I think it keeps needing to be said, is that we need to have really high quality resources. We don't have to create something if it already exists. Like signposting is as helpful. As a parent, in the last the first week of school closures, I was sent, I don't know how many things that were free that I could do with my children, and the only one we do is kind of PE with Joe. So that, I think the more that comes at you, the kind of less that you end up perhaps engaging with. And that is that kind of information overload and that kind of slight decision paralysis. So being careful not to contribute towards that. And then, making sure that every resource that you already have, if you have them on your on website or wherever you resources you do have, are updated to reflect what's happening this year. So we spent the first week at home making sure that anything that talked about medical work experience didn't mention this year that you'd have to do something different. You can't just go to the doctor and do your work experience as usual. In fact, any healthcare subject. So what else might you do? So making sure they're kind of up to date with that. Then training and quality assurance. So training, I think, well, if you want a high quality output, then you need to really train your staff. And if you're going to use mentors, your ambassadors, and if you're doing webinars, it's a whole different set of skills to engage young people on a webinar than it is in a workshop, for example. If you're going to be using ambassadors for e-mentoring, then really making sure that they understand the whole process and safeguarding. Quality assurance is something that I sometimes think is overlooked, but I think it's really important if you're doing anything online, and particularly mentoring and then webinars. You can see them in the beginning, do lots of quality assurance in the beginning, and you can start to work out who are the people that are going to need more support, who are the people that are going to be fine, where are you going to kind of pick your resource. in the past, I remember we had a few years ago, you kind of check in a month later and you find that already people have been giving wrong advice or poor advice, and you want to kind of go back and support them, but it's been a month down the line, so you're kind of backtracking. So yeah, building in lots of time for QA, I think is important if you're taking a new approach. And the third thing is, yes, so teachers as key stakeholders. Now, I'm assuming that all of you think of teachers as a key stakeholder in kind of WP, but actually at the moment it's them kind of got more time. It's a really good time, in fact, to contact teachers. They are thinking about moving their own curriculums online for a start. I mean, the school that I work at, we are just working out how can we make sure that the year 11s and year 13s get the grades that they're going to need. Actually, you've got a really good opportunity to support them. And I know often the big complaint in our sector is that we can't get schools to contact, to get in touch with us, but now you can. They really want this support. So how can you ease their burden? And lots of schools will be really welcome you with open arms with good ideas. I think the other thing about teachers that is useful and is important to keep stressing, that with widening participation, the students that you really want to target are not the ones that are going to come forward to you. So you want to find them, and the teacher is the best person to know which opportunity is right for which student. You can advertise a program online, but you often won't get the students that you really need to be targeting. That's particularly true, obviously, if you're working in a uni connect or with low progression, low participation neighbourhoods, for example. Yeah, so that's that one. Next, what was I going to say? Right, this is what we're doing, which is, so we made the decision to really focus on year 12 this year. Obviously, like you all, we do lots of work with different year groups, but actually for us, I think we are concerned that they're going to be that kind of lost year of no advice. I mean, even the sort of normal routine of assemblies and information and outreach going around and recruitment and open days, all of that is gone. So they're the ones I think we want to give our support to. We do already e-mentoring with so we support students through their personal statement, through their applications, so expanding that. We're supporting other organisations in training up their staff to be e-mentors and do things like quality assurance. We are practising webinars. All the advice we can, every video we can watch, we're trying every single platform. Can we get polls in there? How can we make these interesting and engaging so they're really high quality? And actually really support those students, because I don't know how many webinars you've been to. It's easy to just kind of wander off and do some of the jobs, nobody can see you. And with young people, we really want to make sure they get that information. And then, as I said earlier, updating all our resources to make sure that everything reflects that current situation. We've been doing like blogs, for example, so medical work experience, vet medicine. Another one I was thinking of was like virtual like tours of universities. Obviously there's raising resources on most university websites, and Matt was saying earlier, if you want to find about finance, then you're going to go to where are you going to go? You're going to go to student finance. But if with WP students, it's not just the information they need, it's also a process of how to look and how to read that information. So thinking about virtual tours is just highlighting to students, this is a marketing tool. So making sure that they can see, through what the sort of university is trying to achieve by their virtual tours. You're not going to see the unpainted corners. You're not going to get a really good look at what the student body looks like. You'll get the view that the university is sort of crafted for you. So just making sure that you make students aware of how they can engage with any resources. I think that's really key. But just to sum up, really, I think I've got one more slide that says that. Oh, no, I don't. I have this one. This is actually, I thought, might be quite useful for you if you are embarking on e-mentoring. I just thought I'd share the M&E that we do for ours. So for monitoring, we would have, for example, an entry and exit survey for our mentors. Quality assurance, as I say, to make sure people are giving the right, give the right sort of advice. It's good for safeguarding. It's use that resource. the engagement rate. So, you know, we can send out X many emails and teachers will recommend students, but some will never start, some drop out halfway through. How many actually complete their applications with us? Obviously, students do a feedback survey. And then evaluation for our e-mentoring, we can compare sort of their beginning, where they were thinking about applying and how their application would have looked and how it looks at the end. Have they incorporated all the research and wider reading, for example? And if you want to suggest wider reading, we've got on our website every subject pretty much that you could do at university with what you might read around that subject this year. And then UCAS Drove data is brilliant. So we can find out where the students we worked with went and compare that to a group of similar students that didn't have our support, and then compare whether they went to low, middle or high tariff universities. And yeah, you can measure that. And I can happily share with that anybody else who wants some advice on M&E for mentoring. And then to sum up, I apologise, the last one, Milena. Thank you. Yeah, you can't necessarily pick up what you were doing and then just switch it all online. You've got to pick and choose and say prioritise what it is that you're going to do during this period. Quality assurance is essential. I think I've said that enough. As Matt said, and as I'm going to say, not adding to that information overload. Yeah, it's not a lack of information that is preventing young people from disadvantaged backgrounds going to university. We need to give them a process, and you know, I can teach a lesson, but I need to make sure that some students get certain bits because they you know, may not get it, or they may not understand, they may not hear. And so really supporting students and hand-holding them is our approach to getting them to the right destination. So I hope that was useful. So I'm here, you can ask me some questions later, and I am handing over to somebody from UCAS.
Finn,
Thanks.
Finn from UCAS is now going to show us around the UCAS hub. So I'm going to pass over to him. He's going to share his screen, so bear with us while we do that. Thanks for that great talk, Helen. It was really interesting to see how, like, what you're doing parallels with what we're doing as well. So yeah, great. Finn, whenever you're ready.
Brilliant. Would you mind just unsharing your screen
Yeah.
just so I can share mine? Thanks. Right. Let's just make sure it works before we jump in. Cool. Can everybody see that? Can you see that, Milena?
Yes, we can indeed.
Yeah? Cool. Brilliant. So, hi everybody. My name's Finlay. I'm a product manager at UCAS. So I don't know if you've heard much about the UCAS Hub before. It was quite a big thing back in September when we first launched. It would actually be great, to be fair, if we could get a view on just in the chat, for example, just how many of you might have heard of it before, or if you've had a look at it, just so I can get a bit of an idea post this sort of, I guess, this webinar. But so yeah, we launched back in September, and the response has been actually extremely overwhelming, and it's been really good. We're nearly at about 200,000 people, 200,000 users, which has been absolutely great. But today what I just wanted to do was give you just an overview really of what it is that is available to yourselves, I guess, maybe, or teachers and advisors that you work with, and also just to students, because this is a free-to-air product. This isn't something, you know, that requires, you know, any payment or anything. You can just sign up on the website, and any student, whether they're, you know, from a, you know, a wide participation background, or whether they're, you know, whatever, they can sign up for this. So the whole idea around this was around essentially information and advice, and trying to make sure that students could, you know, make informed decisions, I guess. So the biggest thing that we sort of wanted to make sure when we first started out with the project, clear, sort of actually to what Helen was saying about, you know, having a vision, we wanted to make sure that we were very clear about what it is that we were trying to achieve. And for any of you that have been onto the UCAS website, it is a bit of a nightmare to navigate, I won't lie. But you know, there's 1,200 pages of content on ucas.com, and that was culled down from about 1,800, I think. So that just gives you an idea of how much is available to students. And, you know, if I'm Finn and I'm trying to find, you know, some content that's relevant to me to help me make an informed decision when going to university, how on earth do I actually start? You know, where do I start? What do I need? And for a lot of you that have worked with students or teachers will know that, you know, students don't really know what they don't know. And, you know, that's fair enough because it's a whole new world and whatever. So, you know, I guess as our sort of trusted brand and our position in the market as such, we were very much trying to look at how we could really sort of provide that service holistically to everybody, you know, and also embark on a new journey for UCAS. I think there was very much a view that, you know, well, if you look at our application form, it's not the most modern thing in the world, I will admit. So, you know, really starting to look forward, how can we start to be more relevant, and, you know, how can we really help people? So I've already logged in with my own account just to save some time for us. But what we're trying to very much do, as I've already sort of alluded to, is talk about personalization. So, you know, how do I really start to create a personalized experience as opposed to one where I just have to search endlessly across websites? And you'll sort of see the themes of that throughout the demo that I'm about to show to you. But before you do get to this stage on the hub, you will go through what we call an onboarding journey. So we need to know a little bit about you in order to work out what it is that you want and what it is that you like. And we ask a number of questions, so location for obvious reasons, international versus domestic and whatever. You know, what subjects you're interested in, what scheme or what level, so, you know, conservatoires, undergraduate, postgraduate. And we also ask a couple of other ones as well, just to get an idea of what it is that you might like. So we come up with what we call widgets. I mean, they look like tiles to you, but that's just the term that we use. And it's essentially a much more interactive experience that we're trying to create here through UCAS basically. So you'll see here that what we've very much tried to do, hence the name, the hub, is pull everything together in one place. You know, the UCAS website, again, there was an application form over here, there was a search tool over here for courses, there was some information over here, and then there's some events over there. And none of it really spoke to each other. None of it was really like cyclical. So what we've really tried to do here is pull it all together in one place so that people sort of have somewhere to come back to, and, you know, can feel like, you know, confident in their decisions when they're sort of, you know, making them further applications and so on. So I won't go into too many of them in too much detail, but, you know, we've got search for courses. The map's quite important. I think for any of you, again, that have worked with students, it's incredible how many will, you know, don't actually know where anything is. You know, like I said before, on stuff like this, you know, I've met students that think that Plymouth is up north, you know, and that Lincoln is down in Cornwall. So, you know, really important when looking at how far you are going from home. This is a really big one for me. This actually looks at the past 3 years of UCAS's data on those who went on to university or got accepted, should I say. So it looks at A-levels, BTEC extended diploma, and SQA hires at the moment. What it will actually do, so for example, you know, if I'm Finn again and I'm doing biology, business studies and chemistry, it starts to tell you and push you on to journeys that, you know, people have actually gone on and applied for. So, you know, majority of people went on and applied for medicine and allied subjects. So I can pin that subject guide to read about it. Or if I actually want to go and explore those courses, it's a bit slow, bear with. Internet's not great at home. You can start to see courses that are related to that. And you'll see again through the experience that we're trying to create here is it's much more visual, you know, and we're pulling out a lot of the high level information. Again, to one of Helen's points earlier about, you know, trying to make sure that people are grasping the right information, and you're looking after certain people, and trying to make it much more consumable as well, because it's, you know, it's all well and good slapping a load of text on a page, but actually are people going to consume that? So that's sort of another learning that we've found from a lot of our sort of engagement with students. So yeah, you can book on events and open days, and again, these are personalized to you. But what I will say is the 1,200 pages that I spoke about, you'll see here that actually I'm starting to get in a lot of information that's international based, and that's because I've stated in my preferences that I'm from, I think it was Albania or Angola or something. But again, you can start to see how that's personalized, and I'll just show you in a second how that changes. The infamous personal statement. So, you know, trying to really hold people's hands here, making sure that they've got the framework to work off of when they don't really have a clue where to start, or they might not have the support available to them. Notepad was a crazy thing that came out of engagement. Everybody just kept asking for a notepad, and I was like, why would you need a notepad? You've got, you know, your planners or notepads on here, but people asked for it, so we gave it them. And one of our important facilities at the moment is the ability to chat to students. So I don't know if any of you have heard of a company called Unibuddy, but they are essentially, universities will provide ambassadors, and then students can chat to those ambassadors online. And this was launched back in November, but you know, ever so much now is this ever so important to helping connect students with, you know, universities and students and so on. And then discounts, I mean, who doesn't love a discount? And then apprenticeships as well. So a part of our 20 to 2025 strategy, we're trying to use that as an exploratory market. So very much trying to align, you know, apprenticeship opportunities alongside higher education choices is quite important for us. So that's the first mechanism of that, really. And then I came back to the point about how, you know, how do I really know that I've done everything I need to do? And again, we've got this to-do list here, which is something we devised to help students feel confident in their decisions. And you'll see here how, you know, it's a much more interactive process again. So if I go on to personal statement, if I click view, it'll open up the widget for me. But, you know, if I've got something else to do, like look at some content, you know, what are my options? It'll open up some content on the website. So the last bit I just wanted to show you then was the whole element of finding courses that we're trying to do. Again, a little bit of a whistle-stop tour here. So, you know, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to ask after the call. I can leave my email. But what we're trying to do here is create that, once again, that personalized experience. And we've created this thing called Explore, which is essentially what I call the Netflix for courses. So, you know, there are a lot of students out there that don't really know what they want to apply for until it's presented to them. So we're trying to create a double experience here. You know, for some of the people, they just want to do medicine and that's fine. They want to find a course, and that's great, what our search tool does. But actually, if I'm Finn and I want to find, you know, I don't really know what I want to find, and I know I've got 3 A levels and I just want to do something I love, this is quite a great discovery mechanism for that. So you'll see, based off of the subjects that I put into the subject compass earlier, it started to suggest things to me. Again, and I favorited journalism courses before, just in another demo, but you can see here again, sorry, I got a bit of a dry throat, how, you know, alternative things are being presented. Again, with marketing in English. And then again, we're starting to sort of get people to think about what's near them, you know, especially now, I guess. People might not be willing to travel as far because of the situation post, you know, the lockdown. So what is available to them? And then you've got regions as well. So you can explore locations if you're more interested in going to university specifically, as opposed to a course first as well. So looking again here. And then we've got this For You tab. So this is basically your personalized list of courses or suggestions based off of the information that you provided about it. So again, you can start to see the marketing courses that are available to you, etc. And then it starts to, you know, break it down here as well. So, oh, well, you did say you're interested in Brew Now. So, you know, why don't I have a look at those courses of marketing at Brew Now? And you can filter those down further if you wish. And then you've got the favorites. So it's not just necessarily about favorite courses for us. I think after a lot of our engagement, it was very much about, you know, what are your favorite subjects? Because that's a lot of where people actually start is, you know, for some people it's about, I just want to do geography at university. I don't really know what specifically I want to go into, or, you know, I don't know what career I want yet, but I know that's an area that I really like. So how do I step on from there? And, you know, favorite university or colleges, and favorite regions. And then last but not least, you know, the ability to search. So we've recently changed our search tool to fit with the new design. It was like white and very much not necessarily the same as the hub before. But again, you know, you start to see how the experience starts to sort of cling together and become one thing. And again, the high level information available for people to easily consume and stuff. So I guess it's just providing that package really for students to really dive into the detail when it's available, when they want to, and they've got everything in one place. And the idea strategically with this, with the hub, is very much to push it into the application. So, and the idea being is that you would do all your research in one place, and then, you know, organically, without even having to fill out an application, because that's what students hate, is filling out the form. It's already populated into your application, and your application is already half done, and it's just about verifying it. So in terms of that long-term piece, there's a lot of ambition there, and, you know, we are very much working on how we can tie it up with UCAS's advisor portal, which some of you might have heard of or be accustomed to make sure that people can really see what's going on here. And one thing I will say actually is there are a couple of resources available around this. So we do have, when Which University decided to close their doors at the end of Jan, all of their content is now, or the majority of their content is now available on ucas.com. So we know, because we knew that that was really engaging content that people liked. And we do have available our own advisor resources, so like lesson plans tailored around the hub. So if any of you are teachers again or know some, that's available. And we also are releasing soon some homework sort of style, pardon me, stuff that's related to the hub, again, just to help with what's going on. So that will be released soon as well. And I think that's it in terms of the resources currently. But yeah, I guess that's the whistle stop tour. I don't know if anybody's got any questions or anything before I stop.
Yeah, and that was really helpful. I'm going to now take questions that I've gotten from the chat box, and I'm going to hopefully be able to ask all the presenters to talk me to answer them, if that's all right, for a few minutes.
Yeah, sure.
So great. Okay, so number one, I think this is perhaps the question for everyone, and it's one that I guess is on a lot of people's minds. And I think that the Sutton Trust have recently released some report about it. But do you, as presenters, know, are WP students amongst the most likely to be digitally disadvantaged in terms of access to IT? And like, do we have that information and those stats? If anyone would like to answer that, that would be great.
I've got a view, but I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in first.
I mean, what I was going to say was a couple of things. From the school where I work, the issue has been, and obviously this is I'm in North London, has been that students may have a computer at home, but if a parent is working at home and there are numerous siblings, then yeah, they don't always get sole time for it. By secondary school, most students have a phone, and I think just making sure that anything that you create can be done by phone, and actually most of the students that engage in our mentoring do it by phone, and chat with their mentors on a phone. So yeah, that's what I get a sense of. I remember Dylan William a while ago, who is just a superbod in like educationalist, saying actually for the misconception is not that people don't have access to stuff online. It's about what they're actually accessing. It's the quality of what young people are looking at that is the biggest divide. But there's definitely an issue around, you know, for schoolwork, for example. I know that schools using Microsoft Teams, but having a computer to use all day for your school is not so easy. But I think phones, what I understand, most young people have.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that from my own experience as well. I've met with a couple, and it seems to be phones that they've got access to the most. It's more about a, I guess, more comprehensive device such as a laptop or stuff that they might have to share with a family or have to go to the library for. But again, equally, you know, as we evolve, like, and the technology evolves, increasingly students aren't necessarily having laptops because you can do so much from your phone these days. And then that's another example of how what we're trying to do with the hub is really make it mobile friendly. So
yeah, lots of, I mean, any child in care, all of their school will have probably already bought them a laptop, and I know that there's definitely funding. The government have put funding up to provide
more
hardware for
resources.
students that are vulnerable.
Yeah, and I saw that IPPR had also released a policy report on the digital divide and how to fund that, and creating a digital fund for those learners that need it most. Thank you. That was really, really interesting. I've got a question for Matt around volunteers. So the volunteers that we have, do we ask them questions about their WP background? Do you think them being from a WP background is helpful in creating the content? And you know, what kind of content is important for those volunteers to be creating for the specific groups that we're looking at?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. In terms of do we have volunteers from WP backgrounds? Absolutely, we do. We wouldn't capture data on that from our volunteers. It's not built into our sign up form or anything like that. However, interestingly, when we're inducting new volunteers and when we're having those initial chats with the volunteer content creators, a lot of the motivation for coming forward and creating this kind of resource is exactly because of the experiences they had as a young person and the stuff that they wish was there. The sort of holy grail, I guess, and we've got it with a few of our content creators, is where we have Brightside alumni actually directly creating resource for us, and we've seen that with some of the stuff that's come through, is where we've had young people that used to be mentees that have gone on, started their career, and are then coming back to share their experience. And obviously, when we can write that it's come from our alumni, that's something that becomes really relatable to our readers. In terms of sort of steering the topics specifically towards stuff that are challenges for young people from WP backgrounds, we certainly don't dictate what the content topics are going to be, because we are looking to explore the experience of the individual volunteer. But what we do certainly do is we give it a bit of a steer. So volunteers come to us with a proposal and we'll steer it in a direction that we think is going to be most relevant to the young people we work with. But actually having the open brief we found to be really, really interesting. We've had so many proposals come from angles that I've never even considered before. So I've been really glad that it has been an open call. And yeah, we do have that quality control on our end in terms of editing and steering the proposals to make sure they are relevant to our readers.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think we've got time for one final question, and then all the other questions that have been asked, we're going to collate those and make sure that we send it to the presenters, and if they'd like to answer, then we'll create a summary document which we'll then share with anyone who's attended. So for one final question, in terms of training for staff to deliver mentoring and e-mentoring, and also to create that software that's safeguarded with those considerations, I think maybe this is a question for both Helen and Matt. Can you elaborate on how you both deliver that mentoring and e-mentoring, and what kind of platforms, how you ensure they're safeguarded?
Shall I start, Matt, and then you can chip
ahead.
in with what I've missed? I'll let you talk more about, because I know Brightside's platform, like ours, has the report function, and you can't send email addresses and it's closed circuit. I think a step before that is safer recruitment. So when you're recruiting your mentors, it's not, asking a recruitment question, a safeguarding question, at interview stage. You know, you need to have a DBS and you need to have 2 references. The DBS alone is not enough. So getting references, and that, I think that stands for volunteers as well. So I think that recruitment level is the first place that that I think about when I think about safeguarding. We obviously use for e-mentoring quite a secure platform where they can only contact through that, and that's moderated automatically with sort of keywords. Then not safeguard, just about generally training as well. I think for us, what's important is that idea of like, what is disadvantage? I think you were talking, somebody asked the question earlier about about whether you need WP student experience. I think lived experience is really important. I think there's also something about this, you know, getting the stats around what the situation is, like what does disadvantage look like, what is the likelihood of progression for certain students to certain subjects, for example, so that your mentors really understand that it isn't just, oh, you could apply for that, oh yeah, you probably will get in, like actually really trying to drill down and work out the possibilities. We do a lot of work on like what disadvantage is and how that looks. For us, it's quite focused. We really want a personal statement. We're looking at good applications at interview personal statement. So it's quite tailored as to what the research that we have done has demonstrated makes a good personal statement, which you can read on our website if you're interested. We did some research with the Sutton Trust and the University of Manchester on that. And then values is the other thing. So we're all our training is values based. So we're always asking, like, how can you be the best mentor you can be? Like, what does outstanding look like? And trying to get our mentors to sort of give examples of what an outstanding answer might be, for example. So you know, mentors are well aware of like, okay, this is what you could say to a student that we're getting the job done. But if you wanted to go the extra mile, this is the answer that you might give, for example. So we kind of try and give our mentors sort of 2 options around how they might answer questions, so that they're hopefully instilled with the values to just want to do a really good job.
Yeah. Great. I think that's it. I'm going to now, thank you everyone who submitted questions. Like I said, we will be pulling these together and I'll send them to the presenter so that they can answer. And then I will share with anyone who's attended, including the slides and the webinar.